Most people think refusing help is a strength, a sign of independence, self-reliance, control. But psychology tells a very different story, because the people who hate asking for help aren't trying to prove strength to the world. They're trying to protect something fragile inside themselves. Let's start with the moment help becomes an option. Something breaks, you fall behind, you don't know what to do next. For most people, the instinct is simple: ask someone. But for others, that instinct is replaced by tension, a tight chest, a pause that feels heavier than the problem itself. They'd rather struggle silently than say, "I need help." And that reaction didn't appear overnight. Psychology shows that people who avoid asking for help often learned, very early, that help came with a cost. Maybe when they were young, asking for help led to criticism instead of support. Figure it out yourself. You're too dependent. You should already know this, so the brain learned a rule: needing help equals being judged. Over time, that rule hardens into identity. They don't just avoid help, they become the person who handles things alone. And here's where it gets interesting. This behavior is often mistaken for confidence, but internally, it's driven by fear of exposure. Because asking for help requires something terrifying, admitting uncertainty. It means revealing that you don't have control, that you don't have all the answers, that you are, in that moment, human. And for people who hate asking for help, being seen as human feels dangerous. Psychologists call this hyper-independence. It's not independence fueled by confidence. It's independence fueled by self-protection. These individuals learned that relying on others was unreliable, so they built a system where they rely only on themselves. The problem is, that system becomes a prison, because the same wall that keeps disappointment out also keeps connection out. Another layer behind this behavior is self-worth. People who struggle to ask for help often tie their value to competence. If I can do everything myself, I'm worthy. If I need help, I've failed. So when a problem appears that can't be solved alone, it triggers shame. Not frustration, not confusion, shame. And shame doesn't say, "You need support." It says, "Hide this." This is why many high-achieving people secretly suffer the most. They're praised for being capable, reliable, strong, but those compliments reinforce the fear. Because if strength is who you are, what happens the moment you need help? You risk losing the identity you built. There's also a control component. Asking for help means letting someone else influence the outcome. It means giving up full control over the situation. For people who grew up in unstable environments, control feels like safety. So asking for help doesn't feel collaborative, it feels threatening. Even when support is offered freely, the nervous system doesn't register it as safe, it registers it as risk. And then there's the quiet belief many people never say out loud: if I ask for help, I'll owe something. This belief often comes from relationships where support was conditional, where help was later used as leverage, as guilt, as power. So refusing help becomes a way to avoid emotional debt. I don't need you becomes safer than I trust you. But here's the paradox. The people who hate asking for help often give it endlessly. They show up for others, solve problems, carry emotional weight without complaint, because giving help feels controlled, receiving help feels exposed, so they become indispensable to others, while feeling deeply alone themselves. Psychology shows that this pattern eventually leads to burnout, resentment, and emotional isolation, not because they don't want connection, but because they don't know how to receive it without feeling weak. The truth is, asking for help isn't a failure of strength. It's a test of self-trust. It requires believing that being imperfect won't make you unlovable, that needing support won't erase your value, that vulnerability won't be punished. And for people who hate asking for help, that belief was never safely learned, so they survive by standing alone, strong on the outside, exhausted on the inside. Real psychological growth doesn't come from doing everything yourself. It comes from learning that you don't have to, because the strongest people aren't the ones who never need help. They're the ones who know they'll still be respected when they ask for it.